Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your magical, yet sadly very human hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today, John will kick things off with a demonic tournament that is trying to determine the next leader of the underworld, and is hijacked by the human hero Helck, who seems to have as little love for his own kind as the demons do. And after that, we will pay a visit to our favorite magical married couple in Ancient Magus Bride Season 2 to find out what dark machinations Chise and Elias uncover at a college for sorcery. So take your seat in the Colosseum, inscribe your favorite rune on a protective charm, just to be on the safe side. You never know with the audience collateral in these demonic tournaments, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. Time again for an impromptu news segment. We didn't plan to do this, we don't want to do this, but it happened, and because it was a surprise, it was not part of the intro narration you just heard, so we just recorded this a bit later and put it in here. Full disclaimer, as these things go these days with our show, the reason why we're doing this new segment is a sad one, because we lost one of the great ones. Akira Toriyama, the creator of pretty much almost all things Dragon Ball, and Dr. Slump, and Sandland, which is currently getting an anime adaptation, and a game adaptation of that anime adaptation, or I'm not sure how close these two are together. But yeah, Akira Toriyama has passed away. On March 1st, we learned about this later. When did the news hit the airwaves? I don't remember when it first came up, John. Do you?
On March 7th, the news was posted on Twitter by Dragon Ball Official. So
yeah, they kept it for a week. But yeah, he passed on March 1st, and they kept that out of public eyes, understandably, for a week, and then we learned about it, and understandably, the world is bereft some of a talent, an unparalleled one, and pretty much like looking at Twitter, looking at all the social media channels on YouTube, eulogies and tributes in the past days has confirmed this again, and how extensively Akira Toriyama's works and his talent have influenced people, the industry, anime industry, and everything outside of the anime industry for such a long time.
Pretty much just everyone you could think of, honestly.
Yeah, really. It's like people all over the place. Like, you name a person from a specific... media people mostly, of course, right? Like animators from all countries, and comic book fans, but also, just people who grew up with that particular or a particular incarnation of Dragon Ball. Might it be Dragon Ball proper, Dragon Ball Z, which of course is probably for a lot of people the thing, but also recently with Dragon Ball Super. I mean that, and his other works that are well known. So everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is definitely part of not only part of my childhood, but part of my life," because that guy has been around since I can think, in one way or another, and his works have been an integral part of our lives. And yeah, that's how it is. Like, not only in the anime space, but of course he also was a very important key factor in the video game space. He did the all the character designs, and I don't know, did he also some of the artwork for the world and everything for Dragon Quest? Definitely the character designs.
I think he probably did some of the monster designs at least. I'm not sure about like the world itself.
He came up with the iconic slime design, right? So
yeah.
There's that. Like
when Yuji Horii wanted one thing and he came back with another, and it's like that's the one. That's
like
it.
You can't possibly you can't overestimate how what a big of a cultural impact in the video game space Dragon Quest had in Japan, right? That is basically
still has
like that was the birth of the JRPG. For all, I mean, Final Fantasy on our shores might have been like bigger to some extent than Dragon Quest, more popular, but not over there. And since then, Dragon Quest, I think, has made some strides to become just as popular over here. So we're all eagerly waiting for 12. So there's that. And that being the first one without, I don't know, maybe he already did designs for that, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure he did plenty of stuff for it. Right? Yeah. Maybe not everything he wanted to, but probably plenty of it up to this point, because I'm sure it had to have been in development since at least before the end of 11's dev cycle.
Yeah. And one of my personal favorites that he also had a big hand in, probably one of your favorites too, is Chrono Trigger, which is, also had his iconic designs, and I love that game to death. Ironically, I did not play that game until in my late 30s, because it never came out over here, right?
Oh, that's right.
That I had some contact with it through magazines and everything, and I probably could have gone and played it earlier through emulation, but it just never came out on the Super Nintendo over here. And then I played Chrono Cross before I played Chrono Trigger, which was weird because a lot of the story kind of...
It relies on a bit of knowing what happens in Trigger.
Yes, definitely. At least some part of Trigger, which I came to know after the fact, which was also fun, right? Oh, this is what all the dragon stuff and everything, right, is based on. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But of course, I had seen his design work on that. So I was like, hey, these look like Dragon Ball characters. What's up with that? So,
yeah.
But yeah.
I still think Chrono Trigger is probably Square's, like, one of their best games, even now.
Yes, without a doubt. It's a timeless gem. Like, it holds up so well, even to this day. And I'm really looking forward to just, because I want to relive some of his works. Now I'm going back and playing that again, which I will definitely do. I don't know when yet, but that's definitely going to happen. I'm definitely going to watch through Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z again. That's already on the agenda. It's been a while, so definitely get that going for it. And I mean, we still have some of the stuff that he worked on that is still coming out. Sandland being one, which I haven't taken a look at. I read a few chapters of the manga back when it was starting to be published here. But I haven't checked out the anime. I don't know if I'll check out the game if there is an anime. I probably will pivot to watching the anime instead because it's a bit less time consuming, and I assume they will be kind of same-ish.
Yeah, I wonder about that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe there will be a time where that can be compared. So, but I will definitely go for the anime first once it's finished. Maybe that will be a review for the next season. It's in the space. It will end in May, but it just started, so it's half a winter show, but also half a spring show. So I don't know when we will, if we will review it, when that will come up. We'll see. I guess we have the freedom with that. But assume in the summer reviews we will do that. So
we have all the freedom.
Yes. But yeah, that's coming up. Then Dragon Ball Daima is coming up, which he also apparently had a hand in still. And yeah, that. But after that, we won't get any more Akira Toriyama original stuff, and that is very sad. I don't know about you, John. What was your first contact with some of Toriyama's works?
I think my first active participant in it was probably when Dragon Ball Z was on Toonami with the old Ocean Group dub, and they kept looping the same episodes over and over until Funimation came in. Even though I guess the later episodes were dubbed and like airing in Canada, it was weird. But prior to that, I remember, God, the days of having used to watch terrestrial television, everything's on the internet now.
Yeah.
Rolling through the channels, and the Spanish channel would have episodes of Dragon Ball, not Z, Dragon Ball, on like super early in the morning. And I remember seeing it and being like, oh, what's this thing? I don't know what this thing is, but it's pretty cool. And then going back to it, much, much later on. And, I don't know if we ever got anything like Dr. Slump over here in that time frame, but yeah, I feel like for a lot of kids my age, Dragon Ball was the first exposure to that, and then slowly learning how his influence spread out over like so much of everything else, and like oh man, not really coming to grips with that until like recently. Just kind of, it should have seen it sooner, but seeing it now, it's like, wow, yeah, man, that's his influence touched so many other creatives, and it just kind of ballooned out from there.
I mean, a lot of people have cited him as an influence, right? I mean, not, of course, in the Japanese manga and anime sphere, like, to name all the guys who do the big Shonen series, right? Or did the big Shonen series, like creator of Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, respectively, they all cite Toriyama as the influence, or one of the big influences. The guy of Togashi, who did Hunter x Hunter as well. So like you can't get past Dragon Ball. It's one of the most iconic, influential works ever in that medium. But even outside that, like I said, like you now have Macy parade balloons of Goku, right?
Yeah. It was kind of wild to see that. Well, Luffy's in there now too. So.
Yes, it is a big. But Goku was first. We have to admit that. And Dragon Ball has been also used and regurgitated in so much other media, like in terms of parody or whatever. And we had the horrible live action version. Like there was an attempt to turn this into something else. And games.
What's his face who played Goku in Evolution? Even out and said, rest in peace, Toriyama. Sorry we bungled it as hard as we did. And it's like, well,
yeah. And other works too. I'm pretty sure The Matrix was inspired partially, like at least the fight scenes probably took some inspiration from Dragon Ball Z. I would be surprised if that was the case. I mean, I didn't read up on it, but I know the Wachowskis are huge anime nerds, so they did Speed Racer for fuck's sake.
Neo taking off into the air at the end of the first movie, like, come on.
Yeah, definitely in there, and a bunch of other series as well, and a bunch of other movies as well, and comics all over the place. Like that show was goddamn everywhere, and they're still everywhere. Like only feels like it never left the video game space.
No,
Bamco made sure of that.
Well, I think they are contractually have to make sure of that.
Yeah. So it permeated like every fiber of the media landscape in our lives, or has been doing that since forever. And I remember my first contact with it was, weirdly enough, not on German TV, but on French TV. I remember, because they got it much earlier than we, right? We only got the German premiere of Dragon Ball proper was in 1999.
Wow.
Which is very late. Like, imagine that series aired in Japan in 1986. I don't know when they brought it over to the US, like the original Dragon Ball. And I know it didn't hit as big as Z hit. And Z was more of a known name, I guess, to us as well, just through the manga was published earlier than the TV series and everything. And, we've seen it in other places, but still, we got the first Dragon Ball show first, as it's supposed to go, but that was in 1999, and I don't even know when Dragon Ball Z started. That was a bit later, after the original series wrapped up in 2000. And the first time I saw Dragon Ball was actually Dragon Ball Z on French TV when I was on a summer vacation there with my parents. And of course, my French wasn't good enough to understand what was going on. I remember the episode, though. I don't know the episode number or title, but I know what was going on. I know it was a training session between, I think, either Gohan and Goten, or Goku and Goten, learning to become Super Saiyan or whatever. And that just, I don't know, just the look of the show was so different from what I've seen until now. Or some of the stuff I'd seen until now. I was immediately captivated by it. It was immediately caught my eye. I was like, holy shit, this looks so cool. What is this? Right? I don't know what this was, but it looks super cool. And yeah, I tried to find out. I don't know how long it took me to actually find out what it is. I mean, I saw a poster on it in a game shop or in a comic book shop. On the side of it, I didn't go in there, but I saw it. And I think I actually have that on home video, because that time I was taking my camera everywhere and recording everything, and just record this window of a comic shop, whatever. Oh, look at this! It's Dragon Ball Z. I always wanted to know what this is. I need to find out what this is. I was just recording that poster of Dragon Ball Z, and it was like, that was fun. I still vividly remember that. And I don't know how long it took me to actually find out. I think until I bought some German anime magazine, Animania it was called, which was the biggest one over here. And they had a story on it eventually. And I was like, oh, right. That's what it is. And I want to see that and whatever. And then friends of me got really into it before even I did. And then ultimately the show started to air in 1999. And then, even though it got a horrible German OP, holy shit, and was cut to hell and back in the beginning. Like, a lot of stuff was cut out in regards to the funny, sexy stuff, right? And the violence.
Well, let's not forget the Ocean Group dub with such a bangers as, oh, don't worry, those office buildings are empty because it's a Sunday.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I see their parachutes. God, guys. Or the eternal favorite, I'll send you to the next dimension.
Yeah. I mean, I was there. They cut that back very quickly, though. I think after the first arc, a different studio handled it on our end or whatever, and then you started seeing more blood, and you started ironically, that was when the series actually got more violent. So it was just a time, when the second tournament happens and everything and stuff like that, and Piccolo appears and stuff, and then they really didn't cut anything anymore. At least I don't remember if they did, like, everything. I still remember vividly in the scene where, spoilers for fucking super old show, where Krillin gets killed and Piccolo tears off his arm in the final tournament and whatever, and those scenes were just in there on after school TV, uncut. That's wild. Uncut, and I was like, holy shit, I'm grateful this is the case, but also, holy shit, like, they didn't take anything out there, and I really, really I really was happy about that. But also, I was gasping at the screen when I saw shit like that. So that was cool. The dub also became better. It was kind of pretty shitty in the beginning, but it got really good later on. So that was also neat. And yeah, sometime later we got Dragon Ball Z, which was this weird initiative by the TV station that Dragon Ball proper also was running on, to go into the anime space, anime is for adults phase of German TV, right? They even did like the shittiest commercial. I probably should link that in the show notes, where they have like this guy who's trying to be like cool with a leather jacket. I know they were trying to be a bit ironic and tongue in cheek, right? But it was still so cringe. And they had like this guy with like this hot car and a hot girlfriend, and he had blood on the side of his cheek, and was like, and then looks into the camera and says, "My mom always told me Dragon Ball Z was not for kids. She was right." Jesus. And it was the first trailer for Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, it was really fun. They even brought it in the fucking news on that TV station, because they always promoted stuff they were airing there. And it was funny as fuck. And yeah, then that aired, and it was obviously made a big splash. And yeah, so that's how we got to that, and that was what was my first contact with it. I mean, Dragon Ball manga actually was the first manga I read. I read that before I watched the TV show, but since I'm more of an anime guy, the TV show, of course, is more in my mind these days than the manga is. I have read the manga only once. I've watched the TV show several times, at least Dragon Ball proper, because I don't have Dragon Ball Z on disc, but I watched it several times on TV, and yeah. So
maybe if we had a proper remaster of Dragon Ball on physical media.
Yeah, and Dragon Ball Z. I mean, there's the new Blu-rays, but they're cropped to 16:9, which is not the format of the show. So there's some image information missing. I don't know why you keep doing that. I don't know why certain companies don't get it. Like,
want their show in widescreen.
Yes, I mean, you can put the option there. Most TVs have that option anyway, where you can just zoom into the picture, but I don't have the option to zoom out. Yeah, so just don't fucking crop the picture. Just stay with the original aspect ratio, you numbskulls.
And the color grading on the original masters is starting to just like go. So
yeah, I was bummed when I found out that the new Blu-rays are not that great, and the Dragon Box is super expensive these days. So I guess I missed my chance there for a while. But maybe we'll get another full... Yeah, now, ironically, that Toriyama is gone, maybe that will put Funimation or in Overdrive or whatever, and they will do a combination box set again of both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Who knows? Whatever. It doesn't really matter. There are other ways to attain this, but still, I wouldn't mind dropping money for that. So, yeah, that... eventually, I will see all of that again. And that's definitely planned. But that doesn't change the fact that we won't get any more Akira Toriyama stuff in the future, which is super sad. And in general, that the world lost such a talent. For all intents and purposes, apparently a super nice guy in all aspects. Like, just a treat of a human being. And yeah, like I said, a real talent, a real influencer, quote unquote. That's a cursed term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In the most positive sense, right?
Not really an influencer, but an influence on the world.
Yes, not trying to be that, right? Not actually going for that as a job description, but just creating art, just doing shit he likes, also doing shit differently than other people did, like who went into the profession he went into, like he because he didn't want to do whatever he was studying or whatever, I think, and went into a completely different direction. So yeah, and drew things differently, like focused on different stuff than other people do. Like just learned how to properly draw other stuff, or in the classic way. You can see that in a lot of his artworks, and just the way he draws clothes, the way he draws machinery and everything. He was a big motorcycle and car fan and whatever, and you always see that, and tanks.
Well, I think he went on record with Sandland and was like, "Oh, I did make a story about a tank."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he made a miscalculation there, because now he had to draw a tank in every goddamn chapter. It's like, oh no, why did I do that to myself? Kind of like with this, which seems to be the now accepted story, why Super Saiyans have blonde hair, because he just wanted to give his the people who inked the manga a rest from inking in all that black hair.
If it works, it works.
It works. So yeah, and he was just really good at improvising shit, because I mean, he has confirmed as much, but a lot of the stuff that is iconic nowadays in his works is just, he just pulled that out of his ass. And well done. It's hard to meet a person who can plan to come up with such cool shit, and he just does it and just throws it out there. And that's, I mean, some of the stuff just probably didn't go the way it was supposed to because of that, or there was just not a plan. And sometimes you maybe notice that in the way of certain the way certain storylines go or whatever, and some things just appear once and then never get mentioned again and stuff like that. But yeah, that's definitely this was definitely one of his talents, just coming up with cool shit just out of nowhere, and he kept on doing that until the very end. And 68 years is, as weird as that sounds, but that is way too young for someone to go. And I'm sure he would have given us a lot more, or given the world a lot more of his talent if he were given a chance. So yeah, it's a real shame. It's a tragedy. It's a real big loss, not only for the manga and anime community, but for the entire world. And we will probably never have a talent like that in this, especially not in this medium again. People probably trying to get close there, and I don't want to deny the talent of other people, but just in terms of sheer influence, I don't think we will get another Toriyama anytime soon.
No, it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, and we don't need to. I mean, his works will outlive him for several decades to come, I'm sure of that, and will be cited by other people and still influence other people. But also, it would have been nice if he could have stayed with us a bit longer to show us a lot more interesting worlds and characters, because he had already created so many, and I'm sure he had a lot more up his sleeve. So yeah, thanks for everything, Akira Toriyama. You enriched our world with your presence and your works, and I hope you will rest in peace.
Yes, we begin with the lovely thought of human eradication. Yay!
It's a pleasant thought.
Yes! Helck! So, thank you very much for my anime list rewrite team for this summary. 3 months have passed since the Demon King was defeated by a hero. Mankind rejoices over their victory, but dwellers of the demon world do not share the same sentiment. With the loss of their king, they must now hold a tournament to decide who will become his successor. Monitoring the competition is the hot-headed yet powerful Vermilio, one of the 4 heavenly kings. Among all the participants, she is extremely distrustful of one, Helck, a human hero who claims to hate humanity. As much as she wants to get rid of him, it is impossible due to Helck's incredible strength and popularity. Amidst the competition, Vermilio discovers that humans have vanished from various towns. As a result of this puzzling turn of events, Vermilio grows desperate to reveal Helck's true intentions by carefully crafting a plan to make Helck lose. If she proves to be successful, she might uncover where his loyalty truly lies before the demon world is endangered. So, Helck is based off of a manga written by Nanaki Nanao, and apparently has a couple of spin-offs that are, I think one's finished and one is still going, called Volundio Divergent Sword Saga. Not quite sure how it plays into the main plot of Helck, but it's there and it's still going. But Helck itself has actually finished its run, which you love to see.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for adapting something that has finished its run. Thank
Always
you.
Glad to see that.
But this was adapted by our buddies at Satellite.
I think we haven't talked about something from them in a while, right?
Yeah, I think the last thing we talked about was oh God, what was the name of it? The father and the daughter and the drillers, and it's not Mega Man Legends Underground.
Yes, I'm bad with
Sakugan.
names. Sakugan, right. Yes. I mean, that was setting itself up for a second season, so I wonder if we'll get that anytime soon. But yeah, that was a fun show. So
I mean, spoilers, so does this one, because they got like 2/3 of the way through the story, and I would like to see them. I would love to see them finish this show too. It was directed by Tatsuo Sato, who's worked on stuff like Bodacious Space Pirates and Martian Successor Nadesco, and other stuff in there as well.
I'm smelling comedy chops.
There's a bit of that in here, but there's also kind of a turn later on when they start getting into the actual crux of the story. And it was weird because the humor in this show isn't all like one note, like like your typical straight man sort of yelling at the other character sort of thing all the time. Like there's a little bit of that in there, but we also have dumb jokes that characters will crack in the script, and everybody will just sandbag them. It's like that's my kind of humor.
And the straight man in the aforementioned case, in this case being a straight woman, or a woman.
Yes. Right,
in the form of Vermilio, or what her name was.
Yes. So Vermilio is basically out to get Helck ejected from this big tournament. And
I mean, wouldn't you, if you were the host of the whole thing, or kind of like the guy, the person who is organizing this, and there's this very suspicious person of the enemy faction, really?
Yeah, I mean, he just sort of waltzes in here. He's like, death to all the humans. Like, bro, have you checked what you are lately? Yes, actually. Oh, okay. And the gradual turn in that is it starts to seem sort of silly at first, but then you realize, oh, he's just doing this for revenge, which, yes, to, oh no, there's actually probably a pretty good reason why he's actually out to do this. But that takes a little bit to start to materialize, and I don't want to delve too far into that because it goes into some other characters' backgrounds, and I guess I might as well not bury the lead and say that I really enjoyed the show and in the turn that the plot made, because it was actually kind of interesting later on.
Cool.
But yes, it starts off with this tournament, which hey, welcome to we're getting it right out of the way. Your Shonen anime tournament is right straight up front.
Well, how many episodes does it take up, though?
Like 2 or 3 before other things start to happen.
Yeah.
But yes, they start off, and Helck comes in and he introduces himself among the other contestants. Like the contestants that we actually care about are this, like, I don't know how to describe him. He's this not really burly strong, but he's this like big dude named Dorushi, who's like this kind of like monk who specializes in defense, and he's just like a wall. Like, I think they call him the Iron Wall. There's this sort of like elven lady named Hura, and she's very how can I describe her? She's very proper, very all about,
etiquette and everything.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Everything needs to be in order and follow the proper procedures.
Yes, but she can fight.
Okay.
And there's Kenros, who's a little bit more silly, but he's got a heart of gold. His strength is that he's very fast, and he'll run circles around you, no problem. And when there's like this foot race thing, and it comes down to basically between him and Helck, he almost wins. Because Helck is like, oh, he's that much stronger, he's that much faster. He's like got all of these things that you would expect of a hero, but maybe he's not a hero, but maybe he is. Nobody's really sure. And that's why Vermilio is out here trying to be like, hey, I don't trust you. So in addition to the your regular sort of tournament stuff, she starts throwing in all sorts of other stupid, silly competitions, like who can be the first to build a house of cards and not have it fall down? Who can cook the most delicious meal?
So something that shouldn't work in Helck's favor because he's this big, strong guy and shouldn't, be able to do brain teaser things or delicate tasks.
And yet he does.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it gets down to being, those four contestants, Helck, Dorushi, and Kenros. And one of the next parts of the competition is they basically have this like examination out in the field, and they are headed towards, I believe it's this other castle where there may or may not be other people who are calling themselves heroes. Again, it's not clear at this point to, the reader, viewer, whatever. And they are accompanied by Anne from management. It's not Vermilio. Shut up. And everyone sees through this except for Helck. And I don't think it's that Helck is stupid. I think it's that he's too trusting of others.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of maybe foreshadows also what his reasons might be for doing all this and what the origin of that is, maybe?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We sort of see later on that Helck is a good guy. And, he is very true to his friends and his allies, which, is to his benefit and his, and not, the words are kind of escaping me.
To his detriment, I guess.
To his detriment. That's the word. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. English is tough.
Try learning it as your second language.
True. But yeah, so they are headed out on this field test, but then when they get to this castle and they start fighting these other would-be heroes, as they call themselves, it's strange because they all sort of have this homogenized look to them where they're wearing the same armor and they all have the same sorts of wings on their backs. It's like something seems off about it, which again, key later on. And they go here, and Helck is, helping to dispose all of these creatures as they are, and he and Anne get sucked into this like portal, this gate. It creates this vacuum that they get drawn into and basically taken away from the action. And now suddenly this becomes a road trip story.
Oh, that's cool.
Where they get sent to this faraway village filled with these other like monster type things, but they're pretty chill, they're whatever. And it's up to Vermilio and Helck to kind of try and find their way back, because in their absence, one of the other four heavenly kings, Astra, he catches wind of this, and they have trouble, even with a divination spell, locating Helck and Vermilio, because the map they have of their demon realm is pretty limited, and the divination spell that they use shows them quite literally off the map. So when they're trying to make their way back there, but they also know that they have been informed that, hey, something's up with these dudes calling themselves heroes. It's nothing like we've ever seen before. This doesn't seem quite right to us.
Mm-hmm. So it's becoming like a bit of an adventure show at that point.
Yes.
With the road trip aspect. Like, is there interesting stuff to see? I can't quite imagine how this demon world is supposed to look like. Is this just kind of comparable to the human world, only populated with demons? Or is this just, rocks everywhere or lava? Or what's going on?
It's pretty much has the appearance of like a human world. Like there are it seems a little more desolate in between like settlements, but you know, they are there. So they go from like town to town, and there's like even like a castle town where there's this other stronger demon who has taken over and changed the appearance of all the citizens to suit his needs. And when he faces down Helck and finds that, hey, guess what? Helck is more than a match for him. He gets his comeuppance and they sort of move on. But yeah, there's plot beats like that. They meet this character named Pee-wee, who is like no, he's like this little round bird kind of thing. He's sort of there to be kind of like a little dickhead, I guess, but he's not there. He's not there with malintent. He's there to help out Helck and Vermilio, but he's a little annoying.
He's a mascot character, then, I guess.
Yeah. He's a little annoying, but also, I guess, well-meaning enough because he does help them out a couple of times, which is like, okay, you know what? You're annoying, but I don't completely hate you.
That's something.
It's more than nothing. Mm-hmm. So while all of this is happening, back at where the tournament was being held, well, obviously that's sort of on hold because things have gone awry. So Astra and the others have sent one of theirs, this girl named Asta, into the human realm to do some spy work. And she sort of discovers that these heroes that have started attacking the demon realm seem to be immortal. Mm-hmm. And every time they die, they basically get a Zenkai boost, like in Dragon Ball, and that seems a little bit troubling. There's also this weird thing that goes on in the show where they start referring to characters with levels, almost like they are trying to be like, oh, this is our RPG aspect to the story. It's weird, and they stick with it for a while, and then they eventually sort of drop it because it's like this. It doesn't make sense to keep it in there. Mm-hmm. So
same for One Piece. At some point, they started to introduce this power metrics mechanic, like, you know, with scouters and power levels and everything, and that ran for like one arc, and then it was just dropped from the show. Nobody ever talked about it again. It's like, good. Oh well, that I guess that was your Dragon Ball Z reference here, and now you're done with it.
Good, because hey, remember how big the numbers got in Dragon Ball at the end of Z, and how stupid it was, and it was like, this has to stop. Mm-hmm. Your number might as well be 1 + 1 as each arc moves on to keep it grokkable.
Yes.
What's your power level at the end of GT? It's 100 trillion. Shut up. Please shut up. At least the numbers in this are smaller. Like, we're talking double digits, which is like...
It's something, yeah, that just sounds more like...
It's fine, but you don't need it in there.
Sounds like an actual, you know, JRPG level then.
Yes. Where was I? Asta heads into the human territory and starts to learn these things, and communicates back to one of the other crew, her younger sister Ista, because they can, and this is something else, can communicate to each other while drinking. I forget if it was coffee or tea.
Okay, so the tea is a necessary component for them to be able to talk over long distances to each other?
Yes.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. Apparently it is either coffee or tea.
Oh,
all
okay.
Right. I had to double check it.
A hot beverage. I wonder if cocoa is also allowed.
Maybe they don't, explicitly say yes or no.
Yeah.
They sort of capture one of these heroes. They call them awakened soldiers at this point, because one of the things they speak about with a hero is that you need to have this awakening, and then you gain your big power. And How does that awakening happen? Keep watching the show.
Mm-hmm. So you're not going to give that away. That's good.
No. There is a way that it happens, and then it can also happen naturally, depending on the person. So.
Oh, okay. But you can't force it in a way.
Yes, and the way that happens is
Special.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they learn this. They talk about this with one of the awakened soldiers that they had captured. That Astra is basically questioning that this one soldier was basically just a normal human, which they're not quite sure what to make of that. But then they let him go, and this is where they learn that he says that they can't die, and how the king of the human empire plays into all this, and they're getting their power from him. So the next logical step is kill the king, right?
Maybe. If that is the truth.
If that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a lot of the basic setup of the show. And there's little action set pieces between here and there. There's
how far are we into the show once that stuff with the king gets revealed?
About 10 or so episodes.
Okay.
There's some silly stuff, like I said, obviously there's the jokey stuff early on, but there's some silly stuff where Helck and Vermilio are trying to cross the ocean, and there's this giant like octopus kraken thing, and Vermilio's like, maybe we should steer away from that. And Helck's like, I can take care of it. And Vermilio's like, what are you saying? Shut up. Stop. And of course it comes down to fisticuffs between him and a giant octopus, because shut up, don't worry about it, he's got this. And every time he says, I've got this, Vermilio's like, please stop. Please stop.
I don't want you to got this.
Yes, exactly. We get this burgeoning story between him and Vermilio, and it's obviously it starts off sort of silly, but it ends, kind of in a pretty nice place later on. And I don't want to give away, how that turn happens, but I went into this thinking, oh, this is just going to be goofy, stupid, whatever. And yeah, that's in there for a little while. And, you get shades of it as you would go back and forth between plot beats. But boy, when the plot comes in, it comes in swinging. And I actually really, really appreciated that this had like a pretty cool story to tell as well. But again, much like with Sakugan, I'm a little sad that the story wasn't finished being told. We got about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm really, really hoping that we get to come back and see the rest of it, because I'd like to, I haven't really looked at what happens in the manga after this point, but I would like to see, how this gets resolved, because there are key characters from Helck's past who are kind of wrapped up in this pretty much against their will. And, I want to see him get his good ending, basically. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's the case. But hey, if Nanao was threw another swerve in there, that'd be cool too. I don't know, but I'll have to wait and see.
Do they end on a particularly mean cliffhanger at the end of how many episodes it has, 12 or 13?
Ran for 24 episodes.
Oh,
actually.
Okay, well.
They sort of ended on the sort of note like, well, we know what we have to do now sort of thing. And I wonder if they actually do, because there are things that they lined out that might throw a wrench in their plan later on, which, that's sort of, there is a wrinkle in there that they have been very clear is a hurdle that needs to be overcome. I'm doing my best to talk around things. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, we don't want to give too much away. What's the animation quality like? So, I mean, we know what Satellite usually dishes out. So, where does this rank among all your Symphogears and Sakugans?
I mean, I feel like the action parts were pretty solid. Those are strong. There's a couple shots here and there where it's like, Helck, you're looking a little, but they don't really linger on that sort of stuff too long. It's mostly like the weird distance shots that can be a little wonky, but I don't feel like it's too distracting for too long, and it's not like horribly inconsistent among, everything else that happens in the show. So I'm sort of glad that overall the quality is pretty strong.
I assume the biggest anchor of the show for you, that aside from, how the way the story developed, were like the dynamic between Helck and Vermilio.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We also get to see shades of Helck with his brother Kless. The fact that they chose Kless leads me to believe that Nanao might be a fan of Tales of Fantasia, or maybe that series, because he sure does look a lot like Kless Alvain.
I mean, that could be the case. Maybe there's also some kind of affinity there. Like maybe he had something to do with the with that game. Who knows?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so, but I could be mistaken. I was having trouble digging up anything that Nanao had done besides Helck and the two spin-off manga. So,
but yeah, I mean, mangaka are allowed to be fanboys of things we.
Oh no, for sure.
See this way enough, especially in shonen manga. Which would you still classify this as one of those? Or I assume yes, but it's not classic battle show. It sounded like from the setup, like it is going like this Togashi route, where it starts with a maybe somewhat stereotypical setup, and then it just quickly decides, oh no, I'm actually something else.
Yeah, I mean, we start with a tournament.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, oh man, is this Hunter x Hunter? Which is funny because the composer did music for the 2011 Hunter x Hunter series.
Yeah, nice.
So you have at least a tenuous link right there. But yeah, no, it has some of the trappings of, a stereotypical shonen manga, but I feel like some of the other beats of the story, like between Helck and his brother, between their adoptive father, Rafaid, and, all these other little things in between, like, we get allusions to this other crew that Helck was running with before stuff really started going wrong in the past. And, that's also, really cool. Like, we get so much of Helck's backstory. It's like, there's so much that gets filled in. It's like, this is good storytelling. And, the interesting stuff about Vermilio and Astra, like, Astra isn't quite as strong as he used to be, but brother, he's still pretty strong. So, he's out there holding it down. And I wonder, they didn't really show it, but I wonder what a fight between him and Helck, a real fight between him and Helck would have looked like. So that's still kind of floating out there, some image of that in our brains, which, maybe that could be foreshadowing something too. I don't know. But there's a lot of things that I feel like they could do and could happen with the final arc of the story. And I'd love to see more of it, dude, because, again, this was a really good, a better bait and switch than I would have expected.
And I mean, if they liked 2/3 through the story, I feel like there is a chance that you might get another 12 or 13 episode season to wrap up the story. I mean,
yeah, I
that could happen.
That or maybe like a movie or a couple of movies. I don't know what the plan is. They've been kind of radio silent about it. Like, I had been trying to look stuff up about it. And it's like, no, there's no mention of anything. But Satellite is also the studio to not really linger on too many things. Like, obviously, they had done a lot of Symphogear and a lot of Macross, but, some of their other shows are just kind of like one and dones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe this doesn't get a continuation. That would make me really sad. Hopefully it does so, because I really honestly think this show is worth watching because it's got great characters and it's got a lot of heart behind its story. Like, honestly,
I mean, yeah, it sounds like it. So where can people watch it?
You can check this out on High Dive. It is basically exclusive to that platform as far as I knew. And every so often, I wonder why I keep my subscription. But then stuff like this rolls around and I'm like, yeah, every so often they pick up some like really good hidden gems. So I'm glad I checked this out, and I do honestly think it's worth having a look if you like your shonen anime with a little bit of a twist.
Okay, here's a show I wasn't expecting to see ever again. Second outing of, because it's been 6 years.
Oh my god, wait, had it been that long?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Season 1 was in 2018.
What is time?
That's when we reviewed the first season in our episode 49, Beasts and Brides, which we released on the 15th of April 2018.
Yeesh.
So, well, technically, I think, considering the first season also had like 24 episodes, just like the second one, this would have then started in sometime in 2017. So it's even older. so yeah, there you go. But yeah, so Ancient Magus Bride. I remember when this hit up, I was like, oh yeah, I really remember liking the first season quite a lot. Do I remember anything actually from that season? Barely. Just like with a lot of these anime where the manga is still running and they're adapting like a couple of chapters from it, or like a whole bunch of chapters, then they catch up to the manga and they're like, okay, now we're waiting and letting the manga dish out some chapters until we maybe continue the adaptation. And that was the case here, I guess. And it took a while until there were enough manga chapters apparently to justify or make it possible to do a second season at the same length. So that time has come now. And I was like, well, since I barely remember anything from the first season, even though remembering liking it quite a lot, but we just watched too much anime. So it's hard to remember a lot of details on every show that we watch, especially if there's a long break. So I rewatched the first season, which of course I'm not going to talk about here at length, because we already did a review for that. John, you didn't go back, right?
Probably should have, but I didn't. But I remembered certain things about it, so...
Yeah, I mean, I remembered certain things. I remembered most of the main or important characters and what their deal was and everything. I remember Elias. So again, question here, am I going to call him Elias or am I going to call him Elias like the Japanese dub does? I probably Elias because I'm just used to that name now. Elias. And remember Chisa's deal, of course, because her background story was the most important thing about the show and the whole catalyst for everything, really. And I remember Ruth, my favorite good boy, and also big brother to Chisa, technically. And then there's a bunch of side characters that I was like, oh yeah, Titania, the woman with the waving breasts.
Don't worry about it.
Yes, exactly. No, but all the fairy folk, all the the housekeeper Silky, who is amazing, and a bunch of other side characters, Alice and Renfred, and all those people. I was like, it all was coming back to me once I started watching the show. Oh yeah, that was that guy, that was that girl, that was that person, and it was very it clicked back into place very quickly, but it needed that little push. So I'm really glad I went back and watched it, because my opinion hasn't changed. I think like the first season of Ancient Magus Bride is some of the best anime I've ever watched. It's fantastic, even with the complicated setup that is kind of like, if handled in the wrong way, is really problematic, because it just starts with Chise auctioning herself off, selling herself basically as a slave, and Elias buying her, and then kind of treating her like a puppy in a way. He even calls her that for a while. He does so once in the second season, where I was like, aren't we over this? Stop this. You're married to this woman. Shut up. Don't call her a puppy. This is the meeting. But yeah, he, basically buying her because he wants an apprentice, and also because he thinks that is something he needs to do, because he's not human and he has trouble empathizing with humans and everything. And Chisa kind of becomes his teacher in that regard. He becomes her teacher in magic. She becomes his teacher in becoming human and what it means to be human, what emotions are and everything, and how he can put whatever he's feeling into words. And then they grow together and they form a bond and they form a tight relationship, and they become this. Yes, at the end of the first season, they actually get married in every sense of the word, really, with a gown and everything, with a wedding dress and all that. And they, but they also have like still this mentor-teacher relationship both ways, and also friends, and also kind of father-daughter, and sometimes mother-son relationship. It is very complicated. There are a bunch of different layers to this weird-ass relationship between the two. And I would say this kind of continues in the second season, though the focus shifts a bit. Because what happens is Chise gets enrolled into a college for sorcery. And this is where we again are reminded what the difference is between magic and sorcery, which I still haven't quite grasped, John. Have you? Like, I think mages who use magic are usually siphoning the magic energy from their environment, so from nature or whatever, sometimes from themselves if they can generate them, like Chisa can, because she's a Slaybagy, and they're basically like perpetual magic generators, which is why they attract a lot of magical creatures and fairy folk. But, they also draw magic from magical beings, like fairies, like the neighbors they call, Elias calls them. And sorcerers, I guess they're kind of like math people who reconstruct their environment and the rules of the universe around them, and that's how they do magical feats. Is that quite how it works in this show? I think so, right?
I believe so. I mean, traditionally, depending on who you ask, magic is supposed to like harmonize with nature and spirits, while sorcery is meant to be a control, as opposed to, So I guess it sort of fits in with what they were trying to depict in here. It's still not 100% clear to me, but
Yes, it feels like more, like you said, yeah. Sorcery is more of a controlling thing and more of a using magical aspects of the world as a tool, I guess. And magic is being more about being part of it and integrating itself and forming more of a symbiotic relationship with magical creatures and everything. And sorcery is more about restructuring all the rule sets and all the characteristics of magic around whatever you want it to do. So yeah, it's definitely a different thing. So that's an interesting setup for all of this, because Chise has a completely, through her upbringing by Elias, at least for the past couple of years or whatever since she has been with him, she has come to, I guess, a very different understanding of how this works than the people who are at the sorcery school. So this is already an interesting setup, and this is basically what we do at the beginning of the second season. Like, we have this thing where Adolf. God damn it, that name.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. One of the people who I guess are former students, now professors, something from the sorcery college. He is a sorcerer, I guess, and he's a student also of Lindell, who was also very important. We don't meet him that much in the second season, but he was very important factor in the first season. So that's how he came to know Elias. And he goes to Chisa, and Elias is like, hey, I think it's a good idea for Chisa to join the college, to enroll at least for a year there, because she's a slave beggy and carries both the dragon's curse now and the curse of immortality she got from, I guess, the main antagonist from the first season, if you want to call him that Joseph/Cartophilus, in her body. And these curses kind of battle each other, and if one of them takes over, it would get really, really bad. So, first of all, that makes her a very hot research subject in the eyes of a sorceress, because this shit kind of doesn't happen ever. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the aspects why Adolf wants her to join. But also, with enough research, someone at the college might actually be able to rid her of both curses. So that would be to her benefit, of course. So that's kind of like the incentive here for Elias to let her do this, because he's really not into this. He actually hates the idea of Chisa becoming some kind of lab rat. Understandable. But Chisa, but Chisa argues that the things she will learn there might enable her to help others without constantly sacrificing herself or hurting other people with taking too little care of herself, which was a big factor in the first season. Understandable, she's had a very rough childhood, which I actually saw an extension of, because I watched the OVA for the first time as well, which was kind of this semi-prequel, but also in the middle of the first season. That's where it's set, where Chisa finds an old childhood book of hers, and then we get this little side story that shows us a bit more of her problematic childhood. So that was an interesting addition that I hadn't seen yet. But yeah, so since she had such a problematic childhood, and full spoilers for the first season, of course, since this is a continued season review. If you don't want to know anything about the first season or the second season, which we're also going to spoil, then please just listen to the review of the first season and also watch the show, because it's a really good show. But yeah, her mom killed herself after Chisa's dad left with her brother for still unknown reasons. That's still one of the big lingering questions in the show, because we know both her parents were able to see magical creatures. Her brother might also be a slave. He might also have magical powers, whatever. But her father left at some point without giving an explanation. It looks like he wanted to Chisa with her, but he didn't. Left her with her mom, and her mom just couldn't handle it at some point anymore on her own, and in a very, very grueling scene tried to strangle her daughter because she was so done and didn't know what she was doing anymore. She just wanted to her pain to end, and then just because that happened, she just jumped off the roof. Not the roof, just jumped out of the window of the balcony of their apartment and killed herself, which, understandably just put Chisa into a spiral of shit. Like, her life was really bad until she met Elias, which is also the reason why she just sold herself off, because she had no will to live anymore. And it was really, 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 really dark shit. And I feel like the first season handled all these aspects kind of gracefully. Didn't over-dramatize them. Didn't go and made fun of any of that, God forbid. Or, went too ham on it. I feel like it gave everything the right amount of, gravity and went into enough of why people did what they did, and what the motivation behind a lot of the character decisions were, that it didn't feel like cheap horror stuff in a lot of moments, and also not like they were milking ye old. A slave. The idea of a slave is so interesting, which anime has been doing for far too long.
Yeah,
and really badly. let me just add that, and making this like this cheap setup for either not doing anything interesting with it or doing really bad shit with it. And I feel Ancient Magus Bride is one of the rare examples where this topic was handled in a kind of interesting way. I would say the other one would be Vinland Saga Season 2, or Vinland Saga in general, where this topic is handled in a way that is kind of tolerable or even good and interesting, because it has something interesting to say about this. And I feel like Chise selling herself off and being like the property of Elias is only relevant in the first season for like 1 episode or 2. That is the setup. And after that, they are just they become a couple. They are kind of a couple. It is still this kind of problematic feeling thing, because it's like, hey, he bought his wife, technically, right? So there is kind of like this, there is this inequality in terms of power dynamics, right? But that exists anyway, because first of all, Elias is not human. He's much older than Chise. Like, I don't even know how many 100 years or whatever, maybe even 1,000. I forgot how long he was alive. But that gradually changes. In the beginning, he is like the kind of / father figure, like master figure that teaches her everything, that pulls her out of her depression and shows her a new world. But the power dynamics start shifting very quickly, because Chise starts telling him, bringing stuff into his life that he was missing and that he needed and that he didn't know, with all his years of experience and everything. And then she becomes kind of more and more powerful and has more hold over him. And that kind of also, backfires in a way where, of course, once he actually grows fond of her and starts developing feelings for her, which he can't put into words, really, she has to help him with that. But it's clear that he starts caring for her a lot. And then he becomes, since he doesn't know how to deal with these new feelings, he becomes very overprotective, very possessive. And that is also a big part of the first season, where at some point Chise gets a new friend in the form of Stella, which is this young girl that she helps out because her brother gets abducted by this other antagonistic figure, which we haven't seen this season, but who was a big a big catalyst for a lot of shit going down in the first season, Ashen Eye. And I wonder when we will see that fuckface again. So she and Stella become friends, and Elias gets jealous because Stella spends time with Chise and vice versa, time that she doesn't spend with him and everything. And Chise looks at Stella in a certain way, like you look at friends, with affection and everything. And Elias, doesn't know how to handle that yet. So he gets very possessive and kind of, without really intending to, I guess, captures Chise at some point. I think Ruth frees her, whatever. No, Chise frees herself because she threatens Elias to hurt herself. And then he immediately, she is so scared. He's so fucking scared of her. Even if it was only like a pretend thing, he is so scared that she would actually go through with that, and he immediately retracts and all that shit. So there were so many interesting aspects to their relationship in the first season of Elias really not knowing how to deal with this kind of thing in his life, because he hasn't thought about this yet. He didn't know how to process these kind of emotions and everything. He's kind of like a robot child when Chise meets him, just looking like, just in the body of this hulking dude with a deer skeleton head. And yeah, it's just, the first season just was, and this whole story still is an anime take on Beauty and the Beast. That's what it is. There are a lot of parallels there, just with Elias being a lot more inhuman, actually inhuman than the Beast in Beauty and the Beast is. Because, you know that person was a human before. It was just transformed and lost some of his humanity in the way, and was also a bad human before that. But this is not the case for Elias. Elias, maybe he was human before. That hasn't been made clear yet. But when we meet him, he has no memories really of what he is, how he came to be, and starts from scratch basically, and is very inhuman. Doesn't know how to deal with human. He learns some things by through the first person. He meets Lindell, who becomes his kind of surrogate dad, and his another teacher of his, Rahab, who we meet again in the second season. The lady who is Lindell's teacher, I guess, also a mage. And but he starts pretending, he starts to assimilating certain things that humans do and everything, and he becomes very adept at pretending acting like a human. But there are some key things that he's still missing, and she's the one who brings these key things to him that he was missing. So of course she becomes a very important person in his life, but he has still problems verbalizing certain things that when it comes to her. Understanding certain things, and might or might not react poorly to coming in contact with these things for the first time. So yeah, that was the most interesting aspect of the first season. And in the second season, we get some of that, but not as much, which might be my only hang up with this. I don't know how you feel about this, John. But since now Chise enrolls in the school, for better or worse, we get a lot more characters than we got in the first season. We get like a more wide, a bigger cast, a bigger constant cast in this second season. And naturally, the focus is not mainly on Chise and Elias anymore, which it kind of was in the first season. You had your side characters, and there were some here and there, and they all did their part in furthering the story of Chise and Elias and their development, but the focus was still mainly on Chise and Elias, like learning about their background, seeing how they evolve, seeing Chise becoming a happy person again, becoming her own person again, maybe for the first time, and making decisions for herself and stuff like that. And Elias, on the flip side of things, being like this not person in a way, and then learning to become one through Chise, and all of what happened around them and all the people that came into their lives in the first season or were part of their lives, and they helped and others helped them and stuff like that, were kind of, I guess, devices to furthering these two character stories. And I wouldn't say that is necessarily the case for the second season, because a lot of the focus shifts to some of the other students here. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, for sure. We get plenty of backstory about the other characters that we're introduced to in this part of the story. So it's definitely necessary, I feel like.
Yes, but that also means that the screen time of my favorite characters in the show, which are the main characters, Chise and Elias, and Ruth, I guess, but he is kind of only fulfilling a side role and being a companion to Chise and a protector. He didn't really get much character development after his key episodes where he forms a contract with Chise. He's just there and is cool. And my favorite thing in the show is probably just Ruth doing dog things, just normal dog things when he's in this dog form. It's just, behaving like a dog, and it's super funny and cute and everything. And you have to remind, no, actually he's a magical creature and can also sometimes transform into a young man or whatever. But Ruth is just a fun, good dog. So main characters, Elias and Chise, definitely. And in this second season, we just get more characters, which are interesting in itself. We meet a lot of interesting new people and learn something about them and something interesting about them. But our main duo gets put on the back burner a bit, especially when it comes to developing their relationship to each other. There are some great moments here and there, but the focus has definitely shifted here. And, considering how much we got of both quality Chise and quality Elias time, including learning about their backgrounds, there's a lot less meat to their characters in this season, I felt like. Especially Elias getting the short end of the stick here. There's like his exploration of friendship with another character, Simeon, and his exchanges with an actual kind of robot thing, artificial fairy, Alcyone, that are interesting. But nothing compared to the interesting dynamic with Chise in season 1. This will probably change for the next arc again, because it feels like the college won't stay the main stage forever, but also maybe it will. The teaser at the end of this season feels like the next story is going to be more focused on Chise and Elias and maybe Lindell again. We'll see if that ever gets animated, because, the anime has caught up to the manga again, sadly. But so we're maybe looking at another 6 years before we get something new. But this,
so long as they take their time on both sides. So,
but yeah, so there is a bit less in this season when it comes to our main character. Still some interesting bits, definitely, and I'll probably bring them up throughout this review, but less than in the first season. And I guess that's fine. Show sometimes has to evolve and whatever, and you can't stick with the same thing. But those two are still the most interesting thing to me about the show. This shift in focus was a bit of a negative thing for me. Doesn't ruin the second season at all in any way, because it's still a great season. Still think I like the first one a bit better. That, however, is the only reason why I would say that. Not because it's not animated by the same team anymore, which is the case. The first season was handled by Studio Wit. And the second season is handled by Studio Kafka, which apparently was created by ex-Wit people for the sole purpose of doing another adaptation of Ancient Magus Bride, which is interesting. It's the first time I heard of something like that.
I mean, Wit is so opposed to doing sequels lately that if, some of them still wanted to work on this, I don't blame them.
Yeah, but it's interesting. And also, I wouldn't have expected this to work out the way it does, because I feel like production values-wise, this second season looked pretty close to the first one. I know you haven't watched the first one, but I watched them back to back, and there are not as many scenes highlighting beautiful landscape like there are in the first season, but that can be attributed to the new setting of the fixed college location, which is just mostly classrooms and hallways. Yes, there are some more interesting environments in the college, but you don't spend that much time in them. It makes this season look less varied than the first one, but considering the way the plot unfolds, there's not really anything Kafka could do about this, aside from maybe throwing more out of college filler bits in there. The artwork itself is up to par with the first season. So is the animation, mostly, especially in the final couple of episodes, which look amazing. So I didn't have anything to complain there. John, did you? Maybe there are some episodes where character models are a bit more stiff, and there's not as much key animation going on here, I guess. But that was also the case for the first season, just having rewatched that. So I don't know. Did you see anything that bothered you, John?
Nothing really stuck out to me. So I mean, maybe it wasn't quite as clean as the first season, but it still seemed fine on the whole. So I don't think there was anything that you could really point to in the season and be like, oh, this just looks flat out bad. No, there wasn't anything like that. So
I think there might have been some moments where it looked maybe a bit flatter than the first season. Those are rare occurrences, and it doesn't really matter. Like, the lighting is mostly on par. I mean, like I said, the first season has a bit more outdoor stuff and in varied locations and more interesting vistas and stuff like that than the second season. A lot of the second season stuff looks just familiar and more ordinary and not as quote-unquote magical. And yeah, so that is the difference here. I feel like that was the same thing we got when we jumped from the first season of Vinland Saga to the second season, where I feel like some of the environments, Wit is really good with environments and environmental backgrounds and stuff like that. And I feel like the first season had more chances to shine there anyway. And the second season, just by the way, what the stage for the plot is, didn't just have a chance to go there as much. So maybe if they did, we would have seen some of the same good stuff here. But I feel like the first season had a bit more of that. You know, just
we'll have to see as the story goes on. So
yes, if Kafka gets to do another adaptation, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a minute probably, but
I think I read.
Yeah, again, that's fine so long as they let the manga breathe and continue. Kind of like, I assume the same thing is going on with the case study of Vanitas. So. Because they were all like, the anime was like current with the manga, like I think within a very small window on that show. So
yeah, I don't know how fast the manga is being released. I think the anime is now up to chapter 94, and I think they're now at chapter 100 something, or it was something in that time frame or something. So we'll see. I guess we need kind of around like 45 chapters. They're using like kind of like 45 chapters for each 2-core season. So we would probably have to get to like 140, 150 for another adaptation. So that's something to look out for, I guess.
I mean, I feel like sensibly speaking, you would want current arc to finish. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know how long the next one, the Fiend Bane arc, is going to go. I assume that is still where they are. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe that one runs shorter, and then maybe we'll get a shorter season before, or a shorter season than we got this time, but sooner. So that would be neat. I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind to wait so long that I have to revisit the first and second season again to remember everything. So
keep rewatching it.
Yes, I mean, it was fun rewatching the first season. Don't get me wrong, but there's also so much other stuff to watch that it would be better to get this stuff fed in a way that helps me retain enough of my memories to not having to rewatch it. I mean, I'd rather maybe rewatch the whole show again when it's done or whatever, to get it like in one big chunk. And we talked about this when we talked about in the last sneak peek about Blue Exorcist, when there was like, hey, this is the second time Blue Exorcist has taken such a long break, and again, I don't remember what happened in the last season. So this is just how it is with these shows that take these long breaks for me, and I'm like, unless the show is like really hitting on all cylinders, which I feel like Ancient Magus Bride has done, both especially for season 1, maybe not all the way through for season 2, but it's still a great show, and a show I definitely want to continue watching. So there is like this problem here. If this wouldn't be the case, I would also consider, hey, even if we get a new adaptation in a couple of years, I might just wait until the manga is finished, and then maybe we'll get an adaptation until they have like adapted all of the story, because otherwise it's just and there's still enough lingering questions in this story where it's like, okay, this doesn't feel finished. I had more that feeling more at the end of the first season than I have at the end of the second one, because we get a clear cliffhanger from one of the plot points of the second season, and there's still enough that we don't know about Elias and that we don't know about Chisa's background, like the stuff I mentioned, what happened to her dad actually. And with Elias, where is he? Where did she actually come from? Who is he? Right? That's one of the big questions here in the background that still hasn't been answered. And then there's something opened up in the second season that expands the universe in a way and gives us a kind of a new antagonist. And that stuff isn't wrapped up either. So we only have more questions at the end of the second season than we had at the end of the first one. So I really hope we get another adaptation of this, or the full adaptation of the story eventually, depending on how long the author plans to run the manga. So we'll see. But yeah, getting back to the second season, just getting ahead of myself here. What is happening at the college is kind of standard magical school stuff for a while. Just Chisa gets set up. She learns, gets to know all the teachers. There are a lot of very weird instructors / teachers among. There's this weird bug lady in the infirmary. There's this guy who is just a blob of water. It's the phys ed teacher, I think. There's a half kind of centaur person that is the guy that Elias becomes friends with. Simeon, I think is his name. And, some weird ones, but also some very human-looking ones. And so interesting teachers and a bunch of different students. Alice is there for a couple of episodes. The one of the friends that Chisa makes in the first season. And her master Renfred, who is like the sorcerer guy who is mostly at odds with Elias. Like, they kind of don't like each other, or I don't know. I don't know if Elias, if you can even call him not liking Renfred. Like, Elias is kind of like, you don't like me very much, do you? But doesn't seem to be that much bothered by it, really. Like, Elias is rarely bothered unless something happens to Chise. So that is a thing. So they are here, and their relationships gets evolved a bit, which I really like, because I really like Alice. I think she's great. And I'm really happy that she has made a contract with Will of the Wisps. And they are a great team together. I like that she calls him brother. And even though he's kind of literally gaslighting her at certain points, like fanning her flame of rage, because he likes that about her a lot, because he's all about fire. They have some very fun moments and everything. And there's this great conversation about, between Chisa and Alice about their relationship to their respective masters, but also not masters, father figures, maybe love interest figures, right? So
it's complicated.
It's complicated. Yes, that's kind of the asterisk or the subtitle for the relationships in this show. They are complicated. But yes, I love Alice and Will, and the scene where they have to. And I think it's the first or second episode where both she and Chise have to light a candle, and because someone Alice pissed off, and Will puts her emotions into the candle, it becomes this giant flamethrower. Yeah. And Will has this great laugh when that happens. That's really, really good stuff. So I like that. I like their thing is going on, and Alice doesn't seem to like that Renfred considers her his daughter, because she wants something else from him, or she's frowning because he thinks she can't protect herself. He thinks she can't protect herself and him yet. It's a mix of all of these things, really. And also she associates a dad with a no-good abuser and drunkard, which is absolutely not what Renfred is. So she doesn't want to see him in that light and call him that. So again, it's complicated, it's problematic. And she doesn't really know how to feel about him yet. Or especially she doesn't know how to convey that properly to him. Because he always kind of reacts in a way to her trying that in a way that makes her only more mad. So she has really problems getting somewhere to a point in their relationship that she is really comfortable with. And luckily, Elias and Chisa are much more adept at just talking things out and talking to each other in a kind of adult way. Like, we get this great scene where they are sitting on the roof of Elias' house, and they just discuss how they interpret their relationship as a married couple, as masters and students of each other. And, Chisa teaching Elias how to be human, Elias teaching her magic, how they feel about it, etc. It's really thoughtful and heartfelt, and it really makes you feel like these two belong to each other because they make each other happy, which ultimately is the most important part. Love that moment between the two. So that's one of the good things where we still get a good relationship bit between the two, the stuff that I really liked about the first season, where that is furthered. And we also see that Elias still isn't really good with boundaries. Like, first of all, he takes along to the college, becomes an instructor there, kinda, because he doesn't want Chise to go on her own. He accompanies Chise even on her school trip, which she clearly isn't entirely comfortable with, but she lets it slide because he's willing to send an ineffective clone with her that wouldn't be of much help, so she can't rely on his power. Baby steps, I guess, but eventually he needs to learn to let her do things entirely on her own, right? So that is still a thing that is going on in this season, him being overprotective and maybe starting to understand that that is not what he's supposed to do. You know, in that particular moment, it's good that Elias is there to give advice, though, because the students get attacked by a monster. And thanks to Chise, Elias, and Rian, a new character, that fucker first gets Kelpied and then Dragon Cursed Chise. So that is good. Yeah, but still, Elias is still a bit definitely too overprotective. And actually, Simeon calls him out on that, the friend that he makes among the teachers. He tells him straight to his face, because Elias is kind of trying to pull the same shit with Simeon after he gets hurt. And Simeon's like, have people told you that you're a bit too overprotective? And I was like, holy shit, finally someone says it. And
you just need someone to tell you from the outside.
That's an important thing what friends are for, right? That they tell you sometimes straight to your face when you are bullshitting, and when you're doing stupid things. And it feels like Simon could become that, because he's already started it off. And Elias' reaction was priceless. Was his usual mouth open and we're like, what? reaction. It's like, oh shit, I never thought about this. How did you come to that conclusion, right? So that's great. And I love that, Chise is a bit more hesitant to tell him that, because she loves him and, she cares for him and everything, and she doesn't want to hurt him. So it's great that he found someone now, apparently, who is willing to tell him, like, friendly, not, being blunt or anything, which he could maybe also do with. But he really friendly tells him, hey, dude, you can back off a bit. It's fine. I can handle myself. So, but also, if you want to listen to good music, just come over. And Elias like, music? Never thought about this. So, yeah, good stuff. So these are definitely my favorite moments in this show, where we still have our main characters who learn shit about themselves. And, that's the stuff that we get for Elias, but there's, a bit more for Chise. But that also relates to a lot of the other characters we meet in this season. I already talked about some of the teachers. We also meet the principal of the school. I think her name is Lisa. This old lady who seems to be covered in roses below her dress or something, or beneath her dress. And some, teachers that help the students in a bunch of varied classes. And Elias kind of becomes an official guest instructor, first hides his appearance, but then, just walks around usually in his normal body. And also nets himself a fangirl immediately in the form of Beatrice, who's like, oh my god, what a distinguished figure. So, and he doesn't know how to handle that either. So that's fun. And then there are, of course, also a bunch of different students. The first one, I guess, Chise really meets is her roommate. They couldn't get off on a worse foot, I guess. Lucy Webster. It's this kind of brash, blunt girl, kind of standoffish, that immediately Chise hits her with a door when opening it, and Lucy's standing in front of it. So that's not a great start to their relationship. Lucy is also complicated. Like, she's a bit of a dick. There's a reason for this, of course. None of these characters are one-note characters, really. But, she has a problem, like, reining herself in when it comes to her aggressions, even more so than Alice, I guess. Like, she doesn't like people not standing up for themselves, I guess. And we have another character who has the same issue, Rian. She can't help herself judging people because she is the type who hates injustice, because as we learned to learn, her family was killed and she's out for revenge and everything. And, she, like I said, she doesn't like people who don't stand up for themselves if they are treated badly, which is okay. But she's tending to do a lot of damage with her, leaping before thinking attitude and just throwing out harsh words and doing bad shit. Like she rips off the earmuffs of one of the other students who is becoming part of kind of the main posse surrounding Chisa, I guess, who is Zoe, because she's mad at him for ignoring Chisa without knowing the reason why he's doing that. But she gets immediately mad, pulls off his earmuffs he's wearing all the time. She tells Philomela, who's this other kind of demure, like this very introverted person, that she doesn't trust her because people like Philomela killed her family, because Philomela is from a family of spies and assassins, which is definitely not helping Philomela coming out of the shell that either some of her classmates or her family have put her in. So Lucy definitely needs to learn to rein it in a bit, and she does by the end of the season. It takes a very long time, even until the very end. She can't really control her aggression that much, but by the very end, I think she has gotten there. Maybe her story is still ongoing because we haven't gotten a complete answer to why, what happened to her family, why that happened, and who is the actual puppet master pulling the strings in the background for that plot. I mean, we got an inkling at the very end of the season who that is, and I knew from the start who it was. Fucking Veronica. We can talk about a bit about her, but she's not that much in the season. But every time she's there, you immediately get the feeling. Like the first time I saw her, I was like, "Oh, that's the secret bitch." All these stories gotta have a secret bitch. Doesn't mean it has to be a woman. It can also be a male secret bitch. But
true.
She is the secret bitch. She is the typical character who seems to be overly friendly and, courteous and, nice and everything, but always has this very smug smile on her face. Like she is above everything. She is definitely above you, and she knows more than you do. And that is what that character is. And you immediately know you are full of shit, lady. And she is. And by the end of the season, we know that she might, or we can guess that she is behind a lot of the shit that happened to a lot of people in this show. Bad shit. So, or at least her family is. That's not clear, right? She's like from this prestigious family, like a lot of the students in the school are, because the school was founded by these 7 big sorcery families, the 7 Shields, and she's from one of them, the Rickenbacker family. And so Rian is from another one, and we'll get to him quick in a moment. And there are a couple of other ones who are we have 2 pair of twins, and one of them is also from a prestigious family, I guess, at least one of them, the St. George's. And so she is from the Rickenbacker family, which is like this family of medicine focused, like they're become doctors or whatever, doctors, sorcerers, whatever, Doctor Stranges. but apparently they're also maybe shitty people. It seems to be that way. They at least employ shitty people in the form of Philomela's family, the sergeants, who are the assassin family. And we'll get to them, trust me. So I guess Veronica is gonna be not in the next season probably, because it seems Lyndall is taking the antagonistic position there, maybe. But if we focus on the school again and whatever that plot setup gets continued, Veronica is probably gonna play a very important role there, because I feel like she definitely has a hand in what's going on. But another important character is Rian, who is like from the family of protectors, I think. I forgot what his last name was.
Scrimgeour,
yes. And he's this very differently blunt, not the same blunt like Lucy, but he's very straight arrow guy, right? He knows what he wants. He kind of wants to break free from from his family, which a lot of characters in this show might want to do. Like a lot of this is about legacy. A lot of the students suffer from the expectations and legacy put on them by their families. And Rian and Philomela want to break free from theirs, with Rian taking the direct approach and saying like, hey, I'm going to go my own way and everything. And Philomela just being stuck in the depression, in her depression until pretty much the end of the season. Veronica probably super proud of her family tree and revels in feeling superior to other people, I would assume. The St. George twins apparently have surrendered themselves to their fate, judging from a talk between, I think it was Jasmine and Rian. And Lucy might either want to break free from or maybe restore or avenge her family honor. For now, she seems to be hellbent on revenge. But yeah, Rian is like, he has a clear goal in mind. He also doesn't like people who don't stand up for themselves and who are very hesitant. And especially that complicates his relationship to Philomela because they're, I think, distant cousins. And she was always better than him at sorcery. And he feels like she's holding back now, and she's not the same person that she was when they were children, and he doesn't understand why, and he feels like it's at part she is doing that because she is mocking him without actually actually thinking about why she would want to do that, right? And that makes their relationship and their encounter sometimes problematic. And luckily, there's a person that at some point talking sense to him, Isaac, who is from this family of artisans and who, on the flip side of things, has always felt kind of inferior to Rian because Rian could do everything. But because Rian can't do everything, he has a trouble of looking past people or figuring sometimes out why people might not be able to do things. And especially when they have shown in the past that they are better at certain things and suddenly act like they are not anymore, right? Which Philomela is doing. And that kind of bugs him, and at some point Isaac just unloads on him. It's like, hey, have you ever thought about why she is the way she is and why she is doing that, and why that might be the case, that maybe she can't do it any other way. And so that's a very important scene, and I like that a lot. So I like Isaac. Zoe we already talked about. He's the guy with the earmuffs, and he's also a Gorgon. So think Medusa. And with that come their own problems. But he cares for Lucy a lot because she's like one of the few people who was nice to him and everything. And she likes his snakes. And so there's the connection there, and he's a fun character. He gets a very badass moment in the final battle, which I didn't expect him to deliver, where he gets to turn something or some brain screw manipulation thing on a werewolf fighter, whatever, into stone and into dust, and frees her from her curse, whatever, from her brain manipulation thing. Get another character put on her. So that was a really cool moment. So, he's interesting. And then we get a couple of other interesting side characters aside from those, but those are kind of like the core group mostly. Like Lucy, Isaac, Rian, Zoe, Chise, and Philomela, which we already talked about, but not extensively yet, which I kept for last because she's the most important character in this season, aside from Chise. Because the entire plot and what's going on with the school kind of hinges on her character and her past and what is going on and her family and all that stuff. She is ostensibly the main character of this season, even more so than Chise and Elias and whatever. They're the main characters of the show, but you could argue Philomela is the main character of the second season. John, would you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. I think there's so much that revolves around her in particular that I don't know how you could argue otherwise.
Yes, she's very big part of... In the first opening, it feels like, oh, she's going to be one of Chise's friends, right? She's going to pull her out of her shell after a couple of episodes because she's, so introverted. And that's one of the most important parts. Like, Chise immediately recognizes Philomela as kind of a past version of herself. Like when Chise was still caught up in her own depression and her own misery and everything, right? and Elias is the one who helped her pull herself out of this. So she's like, oh, I recognize these eyes. I've had these eyes before. I have had that look. I know who that person is. That person is me in a way. We might have different situations. We might come from different places. We definitely come from different places, have different experiences. But I know that look on a person. I know why someone is looking like that, because they're in deep shit and they don't want to be there anymore and they don't know how to get out. So I'm going to help this person. I don't know how yet, but I just have the strong urge, even if everyone is telling me I can't and I shouldn't, I will help this person. And that's just the person she is, because she's amazing. And that's, of course, then becomes one of the big driving factors of this season. It's like her relationship to Philomela. And thus, Philomela's plot becomes very important to this season, and even more so in the second part of the second season, because, like I said, she's from a family of assassins / spies, and has a fantastic grandma, like top 3 contender of worst anime mom and anime grandma, like a double package of asshole. Amazing. Like, she is so hateable, so instantly and unlimitedly hateable. Mm-hmm. I have rarely met such a bad person in anime. She's the worst. She is so bad. We have encountered throughout all of these years since we've been doing this podcast, and even before that, we've encountered so many bad anime parents. Like, highlight is is the mom maybe from Hanebado, who's really bad, but also we've met a lot of bad anime dads, and who is? We recently talked about one.
Wasn't it Damien's dad in Spy Family?
Yes, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Or is there someone else?
Yes.
Oh, Prospera.
Yes, Prospera.
Not a dad, but
but fucking Endeavor from My Hero Academia, one of the worst anime dads, but who got a really interesting character arc out of that, right? So we had a lot of bad anime parents. I think we never had the combination of a shitty anime parent and anime grandparent before.
No,
I might be wrong.
Like uniquely bad.
This is a unique brand of asshole. A unique brand of bad anime person. And yeah, her name is Lisbeth Sargent. And yeah, she's been treating Philomela like a piece of shit since she was a small child, for a very specific reason, which I will get to. But basically, using her as an extension of herself, I guess, and as a tool, berating her and belittling her at every possible moment because she couldn't live up to her expectations and everything, making her do shit that she doesn't want to do because, Philomela actually doesn't want to do this spy assassin shit. She doesn't want to kill people. She doesn't want to have a hand in killing people. She doesn't want to have anything to do with that. And all of that is happening against her will because Lisbeth wants to extend her legacy and whatever. And also other reasons. So, of course, when we meet her, Philomela is in a very bad place. And I feel like Veronica is helping along with that because she's the kind of opposite of that. She's like the prodigy child of her family, and she loves being in this business. There's like this really creepy moment where Philomela, who is in her employee, because the sergeants are in the employee of the Rickenbackers, has to test Veronica's food for poison. And it is actually poisoned, and she coughs up poison and everything. And Veronica's like, oh, I'm so glad that I'm so important that someone is trying to poison me on my birthday. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Jesus, dude.
Holy shit. That told me everything about this person I need to know. She is reveling in it. She loves being in this family. She loves being this kind of person in this kind of world. And Philomela is the exact opposite. She doesn't want to be here, but she has to be due to her grandma being the shitty person that she is. And yeah, that's how we meet her. And she recognizes immediately there's something badly is going on there and tries to help her. And it's not as easy in the beginning because it's hard to get access to Philomela and everything. And, you know, Chisa with her nice gestures and everything is definitely doing some good and slowly getting through to her, because just Philomela is not used to people treating her like that, because everyone around her is also either ostracizing her or not knowing how to talk to her or whatever. So she is an outsider, and she's kind of under the control of Veronica and, you know, part of her goon squad in a way, just like the two smaller twins, like April and May. Chisa's there to pull her out of that, but it takes a long time to do that, which I feel like is maybe the other little downside of the season. The main plot doesn't really move very fast. Like,
yeah,
we have 24 episodes, and I feel like we get the setup with the school and the characters and everything, and then around is it episode 8 or 9, things start popping. And a book gets stolen, or it becomes clear that a book has been stolen, because the replica that was placed in where the book usually rests just turns to dust, and then that's how people notice, and they're like, holy shit, this book is gone. And then, you know, through Elias, because he knows this book, we learn that, hey, this is about doing bad shit. You can resurrect the dead with it. You can suck magic from people with it. You can control people with it and everything. So there's a really bad book. So then this starts like the main plot of this season, basically, where it's like, hey, who, and the mystery. Who stole this book? Why did they steal it? What will they do with it and everything? Who's behind all of this shit? And this is where also, you know, Philomela and everything figures in. And that, I would say, is the main driving plot of the season. But after this setup and a bit of, you know, a couple of small action scenes and everything, that plot really doesn't get progressed for like 10 episodes. We have more side bit with the, you know, other characters, and we learn more about this other students and everything, and about their character, and that is also important, especially when it comes to Philomela. But we really don't learn much about what actually is happening here until like 10 episodes later, when things really start to go bad and everything is revealed kind of all at once. And in between, it's mostly like, hey, some people trying to find out what happened to that book. Among them, Marielle, the witch from the first season that we met there. She with her werewolf, no other witch buddy or whatever that we, I think, haven't met before. I don't know who that dude is. They maybe mentioned it or missed it, but I don't think we've met him in the first season. They try to investigate where that book is, who stole it, and so on. And that's a bit of a side thing. And some of that stuff gets investigated, and we get fill on some of the other some of the backstories of the other characters in between, and so on and so on. All of that stuff is important and interesting, but it feels like after a very interesting kickoff for this main plot, we just take a big break in that to just focus on character stuff again, and then at the very end we get back to that main plot, and it was like, that's an interesting choice for a structure. I would have expected there to be, you know, more reveals in between and everything. But for most part, we just get, hey, suddenly students start falling ill, and it's pretty clear that their magic is getting drained. But we don't know who's doing it. We can make our assumptions, but we're not clear on it 100%. And that is the status quo for, like I said, another 10 episodes. And then in the final batch, like in the final quarter of the show, or the final 4 or 5 episodes or whatever, at max, that's when things really start hitting the tracks, and the tires start really hitting the tracks, and things speed up, and there's a lot of crazy shit happening. So it was a bit of an interesting concept for storytelling here, and the structure of everything. I felt like I didn't hate it, but I was like a bit put off by it in regard to, well, I expected the plot with the book and everything to move along more steadily than it did, and having more investigation inside of the school and everything. But there's not much happening at a certain point. The college gets put on lockdown, there are not any outside dangers that can affect the students. So that the students are protected, mostly, or that's the intent anyway. And then once it's found out that the thief is still apparently in the school, to find them. But that takes a long time, and it was a bit weird. So John, what did you think about this? Did it bother you in any way, or were you like, no, there was still enough interesting stuff in between with the characters that it wasn't really noticeable to me?
I mean, I guess it didn't really bother me. It was pretty clear. There was a lot of setup in the background, and you know, they were trying to play the long game with the story. And I could see getting kind of put off by that. So, you know, I don't know. I was there just to follow along with, you know, what was going on with the characters in general. So I guess waiting for the plot didn't really bug me as much.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's fine. Like I said, it didn't bug me too much as well. It was just like one of the things where I'm like, okay, that I just expected this to go a bit differently, or them going about it a bit differently. But what can you do? Like I said, there's enough interesting stuff in between that I liked. So it didn't bother me too much. I just expected it to progress with the main plot a bit more steadily, and not just once they actually kick it off to just immediately put the brakes on it again. Yeah, so I mean, we can already kind of jump to the end of the season then, because that's where most of the, I say plot-wise, interesting shit happens. We can talk about in-between stuff that still happens here. I mean, there's a nice scene between Chisa and Rahab, Lyndon's and Alias teacher, in the beginning of the show, like where Chisa gets to tell Rahab how much Alias has evolved in regard to becoming more human. His initial idea about what it means to take Chisa as his bride might have not been exactly what you define as the classic model of this kind of partnership, but he's getting there. And we see that he has started to care for Chisa, like I said, in a very human way, with all the good and bad that entails. And Rob seems to be very happy about that. But she also asks Chisa to be dishonest to Elias and not tell him about Rob surveilling them, which is kind of fucked up. I feel like the show is not playing entirely with open cards when it comes to her character, so we'll see if they do anything with her down the road. This is getting slight antagonist vibes sometimes from her, but that's all. Maybe that's just how the way she talks and looks or whatever. Not looks. That is a bad phrasing because she's a person of color. No, the certain looks she gives characters. So yeah, interesting. Another interesting bit was apparently World War II definitely happened in this world, which I didn't really think about. Like, I never assumed this would be exactly our world because of all the magic shit and stuff like that. Like, you know, Harry Potter is also not exactly our world. But apparently it did. Like, it gets mentioned at least twice as, you know, the big war that happened. Like, apparently a lot of sorcerers were killed during the war, which actually led to the Seven Shields founding the college. Also, Adolf is from Dresden and remembers that getting bombed to hell and back, which is true for a lot of German towns and cities, my own included, actually. So that was interesting. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't feel like we needed any historical context here, but it was nice that they put that in there and actually make the war the reason that this college was created, to protect sorcerers for the future, right? And protect the legacies and bloodlines and whatever, and make sure that not all sorcerers is getting hunted or killed or whatever, which is, you know, with magic, witch hunts and whatever is always a legit fear, I guess. And Zoe would also be, I guess, a factor into this because his family actually was hunted, like his kind, the Gorgons, you know, they were hunted before. I think some parts of their body are also like valuable on the black market or whatever. So he has his own problems to deal with that in that regard. So yeah, at the end of the season, kind of we realize, or we get filled in on what we could assume was the case, that Philomela is the one who stole the book, or has the book anyway. I don't know if she's the one who initially stole it, but we can assume she was. And she is supposed to bring it back to her grandma for a very specific reason. But right now she can't because the college is like blocked off. So she loses her mind. I don't know what is the actual trigger for that leads to her transformation, where whatever is in the book takes over her body and everything. It has been slowly doing that, but now she gets fully taken over by it, and she's trying to get out of the school, and threatening teachers, threatening students, and so on. And the headmaster actually gives in, and she leaves. And even though Cheese is not supposed to, at least when it comes to the order from the principal, she's like, no, I gotta go after her. I need to save her, whatever, right? And a bunch of students want to tag along. I think Isaac and Lucy at this point. Rian would have come too, but he got his magic drained and whatever. So Lucy and Isaac tag along, and Elias, of course. He's actually the one who makes this happen because, like I said, the princess is like, you are not gonna go because you are leaping before thinking about it and you're risking your own life and other people. Elias is like, have you formed a contract with Philomela by any chance? And she's like, yes, I promised her that we wouldn't make potpourri together. And he's like, well, as mages, we are supposed to fulfill our contract. So we're going to go after her to save her. Otherwise, you can't fulfill your contract. And that's that. So very astute, like him thinking immediately on the fly. He's like, hey, I realize what Chisa wants. And I will be there with her to protect her. But we don't have to listen to this lady. And we're just going to do our own shit because we're mages and we don't give a fuck. So that was great. So yeah, then, some other characters, like I said, decide to tag along. Who's the other character? Oh, Zaccaroni, right? What was his name? The one guy from below the college, from the well or whatever, is also tagging along.
Zaccaroni sure is a character too.
He is, yes. He's kind of like this. You never really know what he is entirely about. He seems to be in the employment of the college, but also he seems to be a bit of a rebel and everything, and maybe has his own agenda, and he teaches the students to fend for themselves at some point and to better, be able to protect themselves against attackers and whatever. So he's fulfilling that kind of a role of a drill instructor, maybe a teacher of arms. I don't know. But he also takes along, and they decide on that not too late because Chisa just by instinct immediately transforms into a goddamn red dragon and just goes through the magic ley lines after the transformed Philomela and Elias. He puts all the characters inside of him, and I don't know if he's inside of Chisa or he attaches himself to her. I don't know. But yeah, they go after Philomela, go to the sergeant's family estate, and then get encountered by a goddess that we met in the first season. The pregnant goddess who was riding around on the back of a centaur with a mask at the beginning of winter. And it's like, was that just an aside? It's like, hey, they're just old gods just roaming around here, and you should better not encounter them because they're dangerous. And they later need, for some reason, I don't know what they actually required help from them for, but they require help from a daughter, or they get help from a daughter, and apparently they're bringing that back now, like that had consequences, because Morrigan, which is the name of the goddess, which I think is the goddess of winter and snow or whatever.
I believe so.
She got very interested in Chise when she made a request to her daughter, and her daughter is actually Morrigan herself, because Morrigan each season or each winter season gets reborn again, basically births a new version of herself. It's weird. It's gods. It's old gods. So. But that's how it works. And now she's in her adult form again and ready to give birth to her daughter again. But she's itching for a fight. And she's also, Jesus has gained, court in a favor from her. So she needs to provide a sacrifice. So that comes to a head just in the most either inconvenient or convenient situation. In this case, it turns out to be convenient, actually. Because Elias makes a play and he's like, hey, this can go either way, but it's our best play right here. And they do the goddess the favor to give her a name, and her name is Morrigan. which gives her additional power and everything. And to return the favor, she slaughters everyone that is trying to attack them in the on the estate grounds of the sergeants. And she's really like, holy shit, that is a battle mate. That is a Valkyrie. That is an old god. You better not cross her path because she loves to fight and she loves to kill. And so that happens. And then they get into the estate, and we get basically a therapy session in the head of Philomela, where like Chise, Isaac, and Lucy enter Philomela's mind, and they each experience their moments of loss in a way. But through that, Chise makes a bit more headway toward pulling Philomela out of her misery and everything, and out of the grasp of whatever is in that book that has a hold on her. But they still need to get rid of the book itself still, because at this moment Philomela has given it to her grandma, because that was her initial mission, because her grandma promised her that she would bring back her parents, who apparently have been killed. And now we learn how all that came about through Alcyone, who is like, the caretaker of the robot caretaker in a way of Philomela. Alcyone was built by Philomela's dad to take care of Philomela if they are not around anymore, and to protect her from harm. And the reason for that is Philomela's dad, Lisbeth's son, eloped with a former prisoner of the Sargent family, who became his wife and the mother of Philomela. And Lisbeth was really not happy with that, because she didn't want to have kids initially, but she had to, because otherwise, if she couldn't extend her legacy, she wouldn't be respected by her peers. And since that's the most important thing in the world, of course, she had to get a child. And that's the only reason why she got it. She didn't care for it at all. She used her son Adam only as an extension of herself. And when Adam decided that he doesn't want to deal with this shit anymore, and just decided to run away with his new found love and wife and build a family, Lisbeth got very angry, and she once at a certain point when Philomela was old enough, she's like she sends like these mafia people or whatever henchmen, and who are supposed to get Adam back, and she's like, hey, you have played house long enough, come back to the family, you belong to me, you are mine, right? You're my possession, you're my tool. And Adam is like, no, I'd rather kill myself, and he does.
I mean, yeah, that's reasonable on both sides, but,
Holy shit. Is it though? I mean...
No, not at all.
I guess why he's doing that. And he, because he was also in a really bad place in that family before, and there's no way he was like going back in it. But I feel like he counts too much on Alcyone being able to protect his daughter. And his wife gets killed. I mean, a bunch of the henchmen get killed too in the process, but still, Alcyone is not powerful enough to stop them. So Philomela gets taken and then gets consistently abused by her grandma, because not only is her grandma doing the same thing to Philomela that she did to her own son, she also treats Philomela even worse because she doesn't live up to the potential that her son had, that Adam had, because Adam was really good at sorcery. Like, he was amazing. He could do the craziest shit. And he just didn't want to live that life anymore. But he was really good at it. I mean, he constructed Alcyone from spare parts with sorcery, right? And made her like a kind of full functioning being. So she constantly lets Philomela feel that she is not, worth her time or attention, that she is subpar, that she is faulty, that she is damaged, and so on, and that she would rather have her die and have Adam back instead, because he was... he had the real potential to prolong Lisbeth's legacy and so on. Like I said, she is the worst. And so she intends to bring Adam back. And part of that is the book, because she needs that book to resurrect the dead. And she also needs Philomela to be the sacrifice. And she just kill her and make her a sacrifice for the old god that is housed in the book. And that way she thinks she can bring Adam back. So... that's kind of the setup for like the finale climactic action scene of the season, where our gang rushes toward the basement where this is happening, where the sacrifice is happening, and is trying to free and save Philomela. And then they also have to stop Lisbeth. And yeah, that's pretty much what happens. And I thought this final action scene, the season doesn't have that much action. I mean, the first season didn't have either. There was a bit with the dragon that got auctioned off, right? And that's interesting, actually. This season was the season of bringing shit back. Like, we got Seth the auctioneer back, who was like one of the first characters we meet in the first season, who is the one who basically facilitates the sale of Chisa to Elias. And he turns out to be the brother of Lucy. It's like, what? Oh, this is interesting. And their backstory and everything, how he was supposed to take over the Webster family and whatever, and didn't because he was not as good. And, you know, that's souring the relationship also between him and Lucy, because she thought he left because he didn't want to have anything to do with her and everything. All of that was interesting. So I like that they brought a lot of things back from the first season to give them more meaning in this season. That was really one of the things I appreciated. I thought, like, Oda from One Piece is still the king of bringing shit back from old stuff. But also, you know, that manga has been running a lot longer, so you can do that. But this was really cool. Like, a lot of the stuff that was set up in the first season, like with Seth, like with Morrigan, actually got brought back in a meaningful way in this season, where it was like, oh, okay, that wasn't just a one-off in the first season. There was really something that led to something in this season. So that's really cool. We learned more about these characters, and they got to do some interesting stuff in this season. So yeah, I really like that. And yeah, so we have all set up, and the gang goes in, and they save Philomela. She finally gets to utter a genuine wish of her own for the first time, and that is that she wants the other characters to help. She finally recognized that she has that option. She thought in the beginning, Lisbeth gave her the feeling that doing what she's doing for the family is the only thing she could do, like being that assassin spy person that she didn't want to be, that she didn't have any other option, that there was no escape. She was kept in a cage. Chisa shows her that doesn't have to be true, because she at some point was also put in a cage in a way, partially by her own, but also by her parents in a way, and what her mother did and so on. But Chisa now is the catalyst for Philomela finally realizing that she has a different option here. And because she technically is more powerful than her grandma, because she is her father's daughter, and Adam was super powerful, and apparently he gave some of that gift to Philomela in a way. But her grandma always, you know, gave her the feeling that she wasn't good enough, and that, you know, hampered her power a bit. But yeah, she realizes she doesn't have to be that. She cries out to Chisa and the others with, again, parallel to a One Piece scene, which I won't talk about too much, but that's because that is still in the episode that you may or may not watch down the road, maybe. So I don't want to spoil that for you, but there's a very, very comparable scene in One Piece to this. I mean, Nami's already kind of there, her arc, right, when she asks Luffy for help at the moment with Arlong and everything. But there's even one that is kind of even closer to this. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's cool. And then once she is freed from the from this sacrifice circle and everything, and with the gang there, Lisbeth tries to absorb that power or whatever, or becomes the half host of the godly entity that is trying to escape to this dimension through the book. And again, then they fight her. And in her first true act of defiance, unless you want to count her call for help as well, Philomela calls down Thor's lightning on her shitty grandma, and once and for all rids herself of her curse, which was an amazing scene. I was like, I cheered. I thought that was amazing.
That's so good. That was so good.
So she's like, where she counts off what that rune that Chisa gave her, like, right, the protective charm, what that means.
Yeah.
That she's other means. It means this, but it also means this. Bam! And just amazing. So I really loved this. And yeah, then they basically, with the sturdy help of Morrigan, who just cuts apart everything in her way, while being pregnant, mind you. which is also not really a scene that you often see, like women kicking ass in anime while they just carry a giant pregnant belly in front of them. But Morgan just does that. And yeah, they just get rid of the entity. They get rid of Lisbeth, kinda. I mean, she's still kinda alive by the end, just falling apart because apparently hosting that thing in your body does irreparable damage to it. Philomela loses some of her finger joints or fingers, or the front of her fingers, and Lisbeth looks even worse off by the end. And yeah, you would think, oh, this is the end of it. But then one of the, which I haven't talked about yet, one of the henchmen that Lisbeth employs are like these two werewolf people that are in her employ, but not willingly. Apparently, their children got abducted, and to protect them, they have to do Lisbeth's bidding. And suddenly, one of the children appears. So the children are apparently still alive, and steals the book and beheads Lisbeth. I was like, what the fuck? She was just about to spill to Lucy, who still doesn't really know who is behind her family getting murdered. She knows that the sergeants were the executing arm of this because the werewolves, like the two werewolves, killed her family. But they were acting under the command of the sergeants because the sergeant wanted to create a copy of the book to make sure that it doesn't get noticed too soon that the book has been stolen. And Lucy's family, the Websters, specialized in copying stuff with sorcery, especially books. And so they contracted the Websters for them, and then decided to slaughter them off so that their plot wouldn't be recognized too often, too soon, wouldn't be found out too soon. At least that's the assumption right now. There might be something else that plays into that, because as we learn now, in this moment, someone else apparently gave maybe the sergeants the order to do this, or was also having a part in this. And like I said, it is Veronica, because she's the one talking to that werewolf kid through a mirror by the end, and asked, "Did you get the book?" Right? So we know that she had at least a hand in that. I don't know how much a hand she had in actually Lucy's family getting killed and everything, or how much her family had a hand in that. But she feels like a main antagonist, so I assume she had something to do with that for now anyway. But yeah, that's where we left at the end of the season. It's like, oh, okay, we got now this interesting story. We still have this lingering, dangling plot thread where it's like, hey, the book is still in the hands of the bad guys, apparently. And we still don't know what Veronica's deal is entirely. So I assume that will come back, but maybe not in the next season. Because, like I said, apparently, judging from the teaser for the next arc, it's gonna focus on some dragon shit. So, yeah, I wonder. But, yeah, we get a small epilogue where the gang, everyone is hanging out at Elia's home and having a good time, like cozy vibes. Silky is there, can make food for everybody, which just makes her super happy. Like, yeah, already in the beginning of the show, when Alice hangs out, when she and Chisa talk about, their relationship to their respective masters / father figures, whatever, Silky's expression when Alice commends her cooking is what I live for. It was so happy. It's like, oh, this is adorable. And Silky is such a cool person. Like, we know her backstory, her being a banshee and losing her home and, the family that she cared for and everything, but getting a second chance with the house that Elias is now residing in. And she is so loving and caretaking and surrogate, being like this kind of mute surrogate mother with Chise at times. And I think she's so great. And I'm always happy when she's in a scene. And these moments are fantastic. So we get a lot of this in her being awesome in the final couple of minutes of the last episode, where the gang just kind of only celebrates Christmas together. Everyone is there. Rian is there. Isaac is there. Lucy is there. Philomela, of course, is there. Zoe is there, and she's and Elias, and it's great. And it's cozy vibes, like really, really nice, happy end to this really dark chapter of the story, especially for one of the new characters, Philomela. And especially for her, it's a happy end because even though, you know, she lost some fingers, but they even give you like this short moment where they talk to each other, and you see like this speech bubble, like from a comic, from a manga, where above Isaac's head, where he talks to Philomela about getting her prosthesis, a prosthesis maybe for her fingers. Like, I'm gonna make you handmade new fingers or whatever. So that was cute. And then we finally end on Philomela being able to have her first genuine smile and hearty laugh since she was a little child, which is like the perfect ending to this. This is kind of like they did it with Mob at the end of Mob 100 season 3. Who wasn't able to, you know, emote properly for different reasons, and finally gets to have a laugh with his friends, and she gets to do the same thing, and it's great. It brought a tear to my eye. I was really happy for her. I was happy for everyone and everything working out, and for Lisbeth to get her fucking head cut off.
That was some comeuppance, man. So
like,
good.
The moment we met her, it's like, boy, I hope this lady gets her comeuppance, because she seems to be a major asshole. I already like the moment where she gets like basically exiled from school grounds by the principal and the catchies, right? Where Jesus just invades the school and is like, I'm going to take my granddaughter with me, because, you know, of course she wants the book and to sacrifice her granddaughter. And the principal is like, no, something is going on in the school here and I need to protect my students, so I'm going to seal off this college and you are gone, lady. So that was really, really fun.
Turned out to be the right call.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Principal seems to have a good head on her shoulder. At least for now, anyway. There might be something going on there, because she's like, yeah, the balance of power needs to be maintained. I was like, what does that mean? That happened at the beginning of the season.
That's right, she did say that.
So we'll see where that leads. There's still, like I said, there's still some dangling plot threads set up for all the school stuff. Like the stuff with Zoe, the stuff with the underground thing, the stuff with the principal. So we'll see where this goes. But Elizabeth finally getting disposed of by that werewolf child felt like poetic justice, and in general was very satisfying. They're off with her head. So the witch is dead. That was pretty amazing, and I hope only good times are ahead for Philomela from this moment on, because God knows she deserves it.
Yeah.
That kid went through hell. And that woman went through hell, and I'm really happy that she found a good friend in Shise, and that Shise was able to help someone with her past experiences, which were also bad. But no, she was able to turn these past bad experiences into something good, because that gave her an access to Philomela, because she was able to properly empathize with her, which nobody else from her class was able to do, and thus found a door to her emotions, to her mind and everything, and was able to help her, because she could show her, hey, I know that feeling. I know what you're going through in a way, so trust me. And that worked out. It all worked out. So good. Very good. Very happy that is what happened. And yeah, that's how we end the second season. I was super happy with it. Like I said, there are these small wrinkles in here, one being that the focus gets a bit drawn away from my favorite characters, which are Chisa and Elias. At least partially gets drawn away from them. And their development, not only their individual development, but their development, the development of their relationship specifically, and learning more about their background, right? I hope for that to happen in the second season a bit. After I wrapped up the first one, I thought we would learn more about where Elias came from and what is up with Chisa's dad, what is up with her brother at this point. I thought that was those were two of the biggest mysteries that were set up in the first season, and I hope we would get there. And there's still, like I said, there's still some interesting stuff with them and their relationship, and also, you know, the curse stuff. Joseph is still hanging around on Elias, you know, estate in a well and sleeping there mostly, but he's always, you know, taking up a semi-antagonistic role. Right now, he isn't doing anything bad or anything. He's kind of resigned himself to just sleeping because Chisa has taken the curse from him.
Right.
So, and taken it into her own body. So that seems to be his status quo for now, but also, you know, part of his consciousness seems to be, that might also still be only the curse or the original Cataphilos or whatever. But part of him seems to be in Chisa's mind, and sometimes Chisa's body does just what it wants, and her being surprised that she did something. And you don't know if that's just the dragon curse, or maybe it's part of Joseph that is doing this. So this is also one of the interesting things where we got a bit more of in the second season, but it's also still a mystery, and we don't know where this is going. So a lot of dangling plot threads at the end of the season, even more so than at the end of the first season. So that's a bit of a frustrating thing, I guess, but also very thrilling, because I hope we get a resolution to that in the coming chapters/seasons.
I gotta believe we're gonna, because, you know, obviously the first season was a lot of setup, but, you know, this season was definitely, I feel like, a bit more of showing us a little bit of the outside world too. So I feel like it also had its value.
Yes, absolutely. It was just a different season compared to the first one. You know, the focus was different. We had a bit of a different story structure. Although the first season also didn't do that much with our main antagonist, with Joseph/Carter Phyllis, only like in the middle part there, and then at the very end. And then the rest of it was mostly just, hey, development of Chisa and Elias' relationship. But that was the most interesting part to me, so I didn't notice that too much. But for this, it felt like it was setting up a clear plot, and the ostensible main character of the season, which is Philomela, is part of that main plot. And then that main plot not moving forward for a while was just weird to me. So again, negligible, because overall the season was fantastic. It was super fun and entertaining and not boring at all at any moment, and a bunch of different interesting new characters, interesting new setting. And yeah, I don't know how much of the answers Koro Yamazaki, the author of the manga, is already in their head. If all of this is just, you know, set up for setup's sake, it's like, hey, this could turn out to be something interesting, or if they have it all planned out. So I hope we don't have to wait too long to get an answer to some of this stuff. I mean, we got good wrap-ups to certain setups from the first season in this one, like with Morrigan, for example, or we got interesting callbacks that extend on the characters, like with Seth. So I must assume some things, either the author is good at planning ahead, or they're good at coming up with good payoffs for things they set up earlier on the fly without planning it out. Both are good scenarios, so I hope we get something similar for the big questions that are still looming in the background of this show for now, which are a lot. So, yeah, I don't know when we'll get an answer to this. I don't know when we'll get another season to this. Like I said, around 45 chapters are used in these 24-episode seasons, and since the show has wrapped up, I think we've only got like 10 more chapters. So it's gonna be a while, depending on how long the current arc is going, like the Fiendbane arc. Depending on how long that goes, maybe it's a shorter one. Maybe we'll get... we don't have to wait 6 years. We only have to wait 3 years for a new 12 or 13 season episode. That would be good. I mean, then I would probably still remember enough from this season to be like, okay, yeah, let's continue watching this. But also maybe they're like, no, we're going to wait again until we have enough for another 24 episodes. I don't know. But I'll hope we'll get more rather sooner than later. If you want to watch what has been released so far for this amazing show, from this amazing universe, I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's on Crunchyroll, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't know if the OVA is there. That might have been Blu-ray exclusive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not on streaming, so you would have to find a way to watch it.
Yeah, no, wait, I think the OVA was actually... Yeah, I think it was released on Blu-ray with some of the manga chapters. I think there was a special release I think that was even released before the TV series came out. I think that's how it was. That's why some of the characters also look slightly different in terms of character design in that OVA. It's kind of set in the middle of the first season, like I said, but it's also a bit of a prequel because it goes more into Chisa's backstory. So
Wait.
I think... Huh?
The OVAs might be on Crunchyroll.
Oh, really?
Screw me then.
Oh, that's good. Well, check those out definitely too. It's a bit, like I said, it's a bit weird. You can probably watch them after the 12 or episode 12 or episode 13 of the first season. Because the setup for this is already the relationship between Chisa and Elias being a bit established and them being at a bit of an advanced place. in that relationship, so you can't watch it shouldn't watch it before the first season. But yeah, start watching the first season after episode 12 or 13. You watch the OVAs, and you continue on with the first season, and then you watch the second season, and then you're all caught up like we are right now. Kind of yay, but also kind of nay, because I dread the long wait until we get more of this amazing show, John.
Yeah, I know. That's just how it's got to be, I guess. But like I keep saying, I'd rather them take their time on both the manga and the anime side, so that way it's done correctly.
Yes, absolutely, and
correctly and faithfully.
Yes, and I hope the full manga, depending on how long it's gonna run, gets adapted at this point, because so far there is no indication that this thing is gonna go bad at any time soon, because so far the storytelling in this has been stellar. The character work has been amazing. I've enjoyed every minute with this show across these 2 seasons, and I hope we get to see our favorite married couple again very soon. And there's a wrap on the 154th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in this podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for a review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The finale of Attack on Titan. No, for real this time. No, I'm not kidding. This is it. Trust me. Curtain calls. We've seen it all. No more seasons. No more specials. No more movies. No more OVAs. It's over. Donzo. Rien ne va plus. Ende, Schluss, aus, vorbei. Hasta la vista, baby. Arrivederci. Henshin a bye-bye. Good night.